Okay, guys, it is Friday. It's time for On the Clock. Conference tournament week, the literal best time of the entire sports calendar, as far as I'm concerned. Right up there with what we'll be doing a week from today, which is sweating out those first round of the NCAA tournament. But don't sleep on conference tournament week. It's as good as it gets. And we have another full slate of games for Friday. Sorry I missed you guys yesterday. I was feeling under the weather. I did a couple show spots for other networks in the morning, and I kind of bailed on the on the clock spot. So apologize for that. But I did go 2-1 for clients, so happy about that. Last week was a huge week. This week, a couple of kind of tough beats have put me negative for this week so far. 5%er gets sunk on a last second three. That was, of course, Wilmington on Monday night. The double OT loss with Rutgers on Wednesday, but we got a nice 2-1 day yesterday. And I've got 5 plays today. Listen, we're getting down toward the end of the season. This is the last time we'll get a chance to exploit some of these teams that I feel like I have a good edge on. So I played them all, and I'm going to give you one of them on the show here today, but all 5 are up at WagerTalk as always. And we have a great March Madness special. So check that out, wt.bluzz/AT. I'm going to get the clock set up here, and I'm going to start with one of my 5 client plays for today. There we go. Buzzer's back. 2 minutes, 30 seconds on the clock. We're going to head to the Atlantic 10 for a battle of the Georges, George Washington and George Mason, A10 quarterfinals down in Washington, D.C. I'll just go back to the regular season meetings between these two teams. I actually cashed a 4% best bet in the first meeting between these two teams, which was down in Fairfax, Virginia. George Washington was an 8.5-point favorite in that game, and they lost in double overtime in a game that they had every opportunity to win. And I think you could kind of look at both regular season meetings and say, maybe a little harsh that George Washington lost both. Both were, the first one was a double OT game that ended as a 3-point final, and they covered. And then on their home floor, they lost a 53-50 game. That was, again, another game that they had their chances to win. Kind of like how I see this one playing out. George Washington's much, I wrote about this mid-January. I said the market seems like everyone thinks this team is a fraud team. At that time, I really didn't think they were. At this time, I mean, I think they are what they are, but I don't think they're fraudulent by any means. I think they play very good defense, top 100 defensive team nationally. They're good enough offensively. I think it's worth noting that, they've kind of figured out, for stretches they played without Darren Buchanan, and Trey Autry has totally stepped up. He's an absolute stud that I think has emerged and is a much better player than he was a couple months ago. And then you've got guys like Gerald Drumgoole, who's been at like 4 different schools, and he's a guy that can, that can add some offense. And that's, really when I look at this George Washington team, I see a team that's got, multiple guys that can contribute, and it's not always sort of on one guy. And that's something I started to notice when I got a chance to see them play earlier this year, when I backed them a couple of times earlier this year. And I think the only reason I haven't been on them recently is because the market kind of caught up. They were value for a little while, and then the market just kind of caught up, and suddenly you weren't getting those good prices on George Washington like you were. But the market loves George Mason, and the market has bet this up from like 2 to 3.5. This is still a neutral floor in DC. And I still think that these two teams are very even. They've now played, 40, 80, 90 minutes against each other, if you count the 2 regular season meetings and the overtime. And it's been very competitive all 90 of those minutes. I'm not at all surprised if George Washington wins this game. They should have a nice turnout with this tournament being in D.C. George Mason will have their fans there as well. Fairfax is not far from there. But again, I just don't see a reason that George Washington should be catching 3.5 in this game. It's been a very even matchup. I made this number where it opened, right at 1.5. I think it opened 2, but right at 1.5. So this is a client play for me. George Washington, this got to 3.5. That was a key enough number for me. Again, I'll go back to what I've said on multiple occasions. Basically, what I've talked about these two teams this year, they match up well with each other. They're very even. And I think George Washington has some nice momentum from getting that win yesterday to bring into here and potentially pull the upset. So I played George Washington plus 3.5, and that is one of my 4%ers today. So head on over to WagerTalk if you're looking for the others. And I'll talk about one that, you know what? These are all spread out because of the way conference tournaments work. These are all spread out over the course of the whole day. So I'm going to talk about a game that goes very late tonight. And, I haven't played it yet, but the reason I haven't played it yet, is a couple things. One, I think the number is pretty spot on. And two, there's time, right? I kind of want to see how these earlier ones play out. I kind of want to see what the market does here. But I'm going to look at Grand Canyon minus 8.5 tonight. And, hopefully I don't end up playing this because I don't know that I need to be up till 2:30 a.m. like I was grinding Tarleton State against Cal Baptist last night. But I'm still seeing reasons to want to play against this Cal Baptist team. So if you go back a couple weeks ago, we had a client play on Grand Canyon against Cal Baptist. A big reason why we played that game was we were ahead of the Dominique Daniels news that he would miss the game against Cal Baptist. I think we locked in 10.5. I think that game went off 12.5. And that was a 2-point final. So we lost the bet. But if you watch that game, like the final score, people are going to look and say, oh, Cal Baptist played Grand Canyon close. That really wasn't how that went down. Grand Canyon had a 20-point second half lead on their home floor in that game and just straight up went to sleep. Let Cal Baptist back into it, ended up winning by 2. Now, they lost the game at Baptist earlier this season. And I think the point I want to make here with Grand Canyon is, they were very hyped up coming into the season. I think that this team really thought if they went out and had a strong non-conference showing, that they had a real chance at an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament this season. It didn't pan out. They didn't rack up those quality wins non-conference. They lost a couple of games that they were supposed to win. And now the whole season has kind of been like, let's just make sure we get to the WAC tournament healthy and let's just go win 3 games in 3 days and get to the NCAA tournament that way. And I think if you watch them play on Wednesday night, that was apparent. That was a Grand Canyon team that looked focused, that looked like they showed up in Vegas with a goal and they mean business. They put 98 points on Texas Arlington. Tyon Grant Foster returned, played for the first time since February 15th. And, didn't even play that many minutes. I think he only played like 20 minutes. So they were able to conserve him. And also very important, the way the WAC tournament is laid out, they got the day off yesterday. So that's the reward for being one of the top 2 seeds in this league. You play your quarterfinal on Wednesday. You get the day off. So you get the Thursday off while the 3 seed and the 4 seed play. And that's, important when you've got your best player, Tyon Grant Foster, kind of coming back from injury. On the flip side, Dominique Daniels has been battling an injury. He had to play last night against Tarleton, a very good defensive Tarleton team. That was a hard-fought, scrappy game. And now he's going to have to turn around and play here. Cal Baptist for a team that has the best scorer, or one of the best scorers in the conference, they're just not very good offensively. I could see a similar scenario to what happened to Arlington on Wednesday. Grand Canyon's minus 8.5 here. I think they win this by double digits. This is one that's on my radar. So you may see a late ad for me, depending on how things go throughout the day. I'm looking at Grand Canyon here. I think this could be a pretty ugly blowout. I think you're finally getting the Grand Canyon team that, was sort of advertised, early in the season and the one that we really haven't seen so far this year. Okay, let's go to a third game. I totally forgot what game I wanted to talk about here. So I'm just going to pick one at random. Like I said, most of my card is locked in. 5 plays. I just gave you one with George Washington, and I just gave you a second one with Grand Canyon that I'm going to look at. So you know what? Let's talk some. Oh, I know what I was going to do. I didn't do a third game because I have to circle back. One of our viewers wanted an Ivy Madness preview, and that's what I meant to do here today. So Ivy Madness, the Ivy League, I guess we'll call it the conference tournament. They take their top 4 teams on a neutral floor. This year it's over where Brown plays in Providence, Rhode Island. So you are getting a neutral venue because Brown did not qualify this year. But we're going to look at the two matchups tomorrow. You've got Princeton and Yale to start things off, and then you've got Dartmouth and Cornell. I just know I'm going to be tempted to take Yale. I just know, or I'm sorry, I just know I'm going to be tempted to take Princeton against Yale is what I meant to say. I played Princeton in the first meeting between the two. They got down huge. They nearly came back. They almost came all the way back to cover, fell short. And then the second meeting was even arguably a better spot to back Princeton I believe it was on the road in that second meeting. They were catching a pretty nice number. I want to say they were getting 8, and I thankfully I missed the number because Princeton took some money and they got absolutely blown out of the gym. Yale, they put it on them like 30-point win. I have a feeling there's going to be some value backing Princeton tomorrow. Do I think Princeton? This is a team that ended up being not any good this year, really, like relative to. That's a loss. Fortunately, I had the VCU to win the Atlantic 10 to offset it, but that Princeton conference future had no chance. That being said, catching points on a neutral here, all the pressure on Yale. I'm going to like Princeton tomorrow. I haven't seen a number for this yet. I think you'll probably see those numbers start to creep out, over the course of the day today. But they're going to be catching points. And the thing with Princeton is you just know that they've got that game coming where they hit everything. And if it's here, they can win. That's the thing. Princeton is a good enough outside shooting team where if they're just on, if Xavier Lee's on, and some of those other guys, Pierce is hitting shots, like they're dangerous. Even with the fact that they're not even close to as good as they were supposed to be this year, it doesn't mean this is going to be an easy game for Yale. So I'm going to have to look at Princeton plus the points. The other game, I got to be honest, I think I'm done betting against Dartmouth. I think I'm done betting against Dartmouth. I did have that 5% winner against Dartmouth. I believe we played Penn against them. But for the most part, Dartmouth has been a machine against the number in Ivy League play. All signs pointed to regression with this Dartmouth team. It never really happened. You look at the two regular season meetings, Dartmouth, Cornell. I mean, the second one, Dartmouth, I think they won by 40. Cornell won the first one pretty big. Dartmouth won the second one. Cornell will give you some easy buckets, and Dartmouth found a way to take advantage of that in the second meeting. So again, this is a tough one. I don't know if I'll have. I have to see a number. Everything's relative to the number, but I'm gonna have a hard time betting against Dartmouth just because they're still undervalued. The market still undervalues them, and that regression never really happened. So, neutral floor. Cornell's been better on their home floor. They're now not on their home floor again. This is over in Rhode Island where Brown plays. Probably going to get more Dartmouth fans. I don't know. I don't know if Cornell like that. I've been to a million Cornell games. Like it's a lot of locals. Like I don't know if they're going to have a fan base that really makes that trip. For maybe they'll show up on Sunday if they're in the final. But I can't see a ton of Cornell fans like making the trip to Providence, Rhode Island for the semifinal game against Dartmouth. I guess I lean Dartmouth. I'll be shocked if I have a play in that one, but I probably lean both dogs. I'm expecting Dartmouth to be an underdog. Princeton will definitely be an underdog. So Ivy Madness preview. I'll lean the underdogs. Will Yale probably win the tournament? Yeah. But, there's been, go back to last year. Brown had that game won. And that was a better Yale team than this year. Brown had that game won last year in the final and kind of choked it away. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone was able to knock off Yale or give them a scare. And Yale is going to be a substantial favorite against any of these opponents. So it's kind of how I look at it. Maybe I'll circle back with another show tomorrow and we'll talk Ivy again. But that's on the clock for today. Client play, a strong lean, a little bit of an Ivy preview, and we'll see you guys back here with something in the morning. Cash all your tickets. Hope everyone enjoys the weekend. Also, live selection Sunday show, WagerTalk YouTube channel. Like and subscribe, and give us a follow. Maybe come join us on Sunday night as the bracket is being unveiled on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. We'll see you guys in the morning.